Hello, class. Welcome to Lesson 5 in Unit 5. All right. Fractionally speaking, powers of 10. All right, so some of this should be a little bit of a review for you, but in case you didn't quite learn it in 5th grade or you forgot it, we're going to cover it now. Okay, so you were working with a partner for number 1 to find the product or quotient for a list of problems. Partner A, partner B. Okay, if we look at, I'm going to go for letter A at the same time here. I want to show you something. So it says 250 times 1/10. We want to find out what that is. Well, 250 times 1/10, that means we're talking about taking 1/10 of 250. Okay, so all we've got to do when we take 1/10 of 250 is we're just going to think about moving the decimal point in one spot. So if I write this for you, if I write 250, and we're going to move the decimal point in, well, there is no decimal point. Okay, that means it's at the end, and that means it's going to be moving in to right here. It's going to be right there between the 5 and the 0. And what that really means is we're just going to have 25. Okay? Multiplying by 1/10 means you're going to find 1/10 of it. Okay, so you can just knock off a 0 if you like. If it ends in 0, just knock off a 0. Otherwise, you're going to be moving the decimal point in one place. It's the same thing. Now, I'm going to go over to partner B here, and you may be thinking, well, why is that? Why not do the rest of partner A? But I want you to see something here. For letter A, 250 divided by 10. This is the exact same thing as multiplying by 1/10. And I know you're thinking, well, wait, no, you have 1/10 as a fraction and 10's a whole number, and there's multiplication and division. This is the exact same thing. All right? So, in my experience, a lot of students don't quite realize this when they're in 5th grade. So that's okay. We're going to learn it now. This is the exact same idea. Dividing it by 10 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/10. So that means we're going to get the same answer by the same process. We're going to be moving in the decimal point one place, and it's going to be 25. All right, so same thing for both of these here. All right, for letter B. If you look at letter B, we can see that you have 250 times 1 over 100. Okay, we're seeing how many, what's 1/100th of 250? Well, we know that there are two hundreds that are in 250. Okay, but there's a little bit extra, right? There's an extra half that's added on. So we can think about this as being 2.5. But really, I want to build off of the idea that I just went over, which is the idea of moving in the decimal two places. So instead of writing it as 2.5, I want us to see that since we're multiplying by 1/100th, we can move the decimal point in two places. So in this case here, we have 250, and we're going to move the decimal point in two places. There is nothing here, so that means it's at the end. If we move in two places, 1, 2, it's going to be right here. It's going to be between the between the 2 and the 5. So you can leave the 0, but you don't need it. Okay? If you were talking in terms of money, then you would want to leave the 0, so you know that it's $2.50. But you don't have to have it in this case here because we don't see any emission of money. So it's 2.5. So that was times 1/100th. That's how we do it. Look over here. We are now dividing by 100. Dividing by 100 is the same thing as multiplying by 1 over 100. This is the exact same problem as this one. Okay, if you need to pause it to look at it and think about it, please do so, but these two are the exact same problem. Isn't that amazing? So you can guess the answer to letter B, right? Okay, so let's look at letter C. 48 divided by 10. Okay, if you're dividing it by 10, then we think in terms of moving the decimal point in one place. That's the easiest way to think about it. So if we take the 48 that we start with, and we're going to divide it by 10, we move the decimal point in one place. There isn't a decimal point. That means it is at the end. It's going to come in one spot, and it's going to be right here. It's going to be 4.8. We look over to partner B's column here, 48 times 1/10. Hopefully you've caught on now. Multiplying by 1/10 is the same as dividing by 10. Okay? In either case, we're finding out what 1/10 of something is. Here we say it's 1/10 times 48. Here we say it's 48 divided by 10. Same thing. All right, and then 48 divided by 100. So 48 divided by 100, that means we're going to move the decimal point in. We have 2 zeros. It's going to go 2 places. So for this one here, if we have our 48 that we start with, and we're going to move the decimal point in 2 places. There's nothing here, no decimal point here. It's at the end. We go 2 places and go 1 and 2. So we're going to put it here, and just so we're clear, we're going to put a 0 in front. 0.48. That's what this is. We divide it by 100. Over here, we are multiplying by 1/100. Same thing, meaning same answer, right? These are the same. And so basically the idea is, if you're thinking about it in terms of division, and it's a power of 10, so that could be like 10 or 100, or you'll see later on 1,000, so on and so forth. It's a multiple of 10. It's a power of 10. It means 10 times some number. 10 times 10 a certain number of times. Right? This is 10 times 10 to give you 100. So whenever you have a power of 10, you're going to, if you're dividing it, you're going to move the decimal point to the left how many ever zeros there are. 2 zeros means 2 spots. 1 0 means 1 spot. If you think about it in terms of multiplication, multiplying by 1/10, well, you can think about it, that means you're dividing by 10. So you're going to move it to the left 1 0. Okay? So that's something to be aware of. So let's build off of this with number 2. So based on what we just saw here, let's do these problems here. So 720 times 0.1. Well, you're thinking, well, wait, I didn't see 0.1 up here, right? You kind of didn't see it, but you saw the equivalent of 0.1. You saw the same thing. Okay, 0.1 is talking about 0.10. That's the same thing, right? You can add a 0, not change the value. And that's talking about 10 hundredths, or 1/10. Okay, this is 10 out of 100. Remember, if once we get to 100, then we have 1 whole. So this is like 10 cents in money. Okay, so it's 1/10 of a dollar if you think about it in terms of money. So it's going to be the same thing then as multiplying by 1/10, which is the same thing as dividing by 10. Which means, okay, if we think about it in terms of multiplication, we're going to move the decimal point. There's one number to the right of the decimal point. So we're going to move it in 1 spot. So for 720, we are going to be moving it in, for this one, 1 spot. So since you don't see one, it's going to be placed right here. So it'll be 72.0, and we don't really need, whoops, I didn't mean to take that part. We don't need the 0 or the decimal point, right? It's just 72. And then 72 times 0.01. If you were to say this, if you were to pronounce this, you would call this 1/100th. Okay, that's what this means here, 1/100th. This is the same thing as a 1 out of 100. The same thing as this, right? It's the same thing as either dividing it by 100 or multiplying it times 1/100. Okay, so what that means is that you're going to move the decimal point in. How many spots do we move it? It's going to be 2 spots, right? So in this case here, again, 720 times 0.01, that's the same thing as 720 times 1/100th. Okay, just like this here. So we're going to move it in 2 places to the left. So there's no decimal point, which means it's at the end. So 1, 2, boom, right there. 7.20, and we really don't need the 0 in this case, unless it was money. All right, so let's go ahead and find some products. 36 times 0.1. Okay, hopefully by now you've caught on. You're going to move the decimal point to the left 1 spot. It's going to be 3.6. I see one number to the right of the decimal point, so I move it 1 spot. 24.5 times 0.1. Okay, same thing. I'm going to move the decimal point 1 spot to the left. Here, it's going to look a little bit different at first because we've already got a decimal point, right? It's 24.5. So if we're going to move this to the left 1 spot, it's going to end up here. It's going to end up between the 2 and the 4. Okay, so we want to go ahead and rewrite that. We want to go ahead and move this decimal point. Actually, well, the 5 could stay. The decimal point needs to come here. 2.45. Okay, or let me erase this and I'll type it out for you. Okay, I think for these, actually, I'm going to be able to go ahead and just start typing again. So let me do that. So it's going to be 2.45. Okay, you can see it's one spot to the left of where it was originally. And then for C, multiplying by 0.1, again, we're going to move it one spot to the left. So it's the exact same process. It may look a little bit different at first. Okay, so if we have 1.8 to start with, and we're going to move it one place from here to the left, it's now going to be in front of the 1. So we can take it away from here and move it to there, which means we need to put a 0 in front here to make it clear. So 0.18 is how that's going to work. For letter D, we're multiplying by 0.01. That's 1/100th. So that's the same thing as this, 1/100th, right? We write it as a fraction here, we write it as a decimal here, but they mean the same thing. They have the same value. So we're going to do them the same way. So if you multiply by 1/100th, it's the same thing as dividing by 100, which means we need to move the decimal point in two places. So with the number 54, okay, there isn't a decimal point, right? So there is no decimal point. That means it's at the end where the cursor is flashing, and we need to move it now how many places? 2. So 1, 2, boom, put the decimal there, put a 0 in front of it, 0.54. And then for letter E, 9.2 times 0.01, we're multiplying times 1/100th. We're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So if I come in with 9.2, and I've got to go 2 places to the left, that means I need to go one spot to the left. It's right here, right? So one spot to the left would put it on this side of 9. I need to go one more spot. Okay, so I need to put a 0 here and the decimal here. And now this one goes away. So it's 0.092, and I'm going to put another 0 in front of the decimal so we're clear that we know that we're talking about something that is less than 1. 0.092. Okay, and then for number 4, Jada says if you multiply a number by 0.001, the decimal point of the number moves 3 places to the left. Do you agree with her statement? And explain why. So, in this case here, remember we were multiplying by decimal. When it was 0.1 that we were multiplying by, there was one number behind the decimal point, the 1 in this case, and we moved it one place to the left. When we multiplied times 0.01, there were 2 numbers to the right of the decimal point. So we moved the decimal point 2 places, like you can see here. So now if you look at this here, 0.001, there are 3 numbers that are behind or to the right of the decimal point. So we would move the decimal point 3 places to the left? Yes, that is true. This decimal says 1/1000th, ending in th, 1/1000th. Okay, so yeah, we're going to move it 3 places to the left, and we're going to get into that more in future activities.